I want to take a moment just to introduce Dor Garbash. He's our next speaker, and we're so excited to have him here as well. He's I've followed him personally as a fan for years now. Just his ideas on decentralization are so exciting. He's the head of the ecosystem at MENA Foundation. MENA Foundation is a public benefit corporation serving the MENA protocol. So he has years of experience in a product leadership role. He has lead product teams to deliver industry-leading decentralized treasury systems, sidechain governance, and incentive protocols. And he has a PhD in applied computer science and some very deep thinking in the decentralization space, very specifically as well, right? So his talk title today is Decentralization, Innovation, and Lessons Learned. So welcome, Dor, and over to you.
Hi everybody. I'm so happy to be here, and it's such a beautiful thing to see the blossoming of SingularityNET and your deep commitment to decentralized governance and decentralized innovation, and it's the perfect storm. It's all happening in the right time, in the right place, and I'm happy to contribute a bit, just my part. So let me share my screen. All right, awesome. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard me before. I was just saying like how honored I am to be here and do my part. It's really inspiring to see SingularityNet's deep commitment to decentralized governance, decentralized innovation. A perfect storm, right? Exactly in the right time, and the same as this like AI industry matures, and I'm so happy to be here and share a few lessons and just do my part. So thank you for inviting me. So this talk I'm just gonna share. We're gonna be pretty dense. I'm just gonna try to run through some insights and lessons I've learned through my experience in DAO Stack, leading Cardano's Project Catalyst, RHK Project Catalyst, short stint at Kickstarter's blockchain, and also now leading the ecosystem at MENA Protocol and its decentralized innovation program. So let's get started. So first of all, well-designed blockchains incentivized individuals towards a common goal. Okay, like this is one of those known truths that it's kind of like the secret weapon, okay, or the killer feature of blockchains. It started with Bitcoin, with miners and block rewards that empower these individuals to run a decentralized ledger. You can see a lot of this like diversity of the incredible diversity of DeFi liquidity providers. The diversity of DeFi blockchains, where they incentivize individual liquidity providers through block rewards through DeFi rewards to run a decentralized financial system. And now we're on the verge of the next big revolution, decentralized innovation, which incentivize developers and entrepreneurs through those innovation rewards and reputation systems to actually build utility for end users. And I think that this level now where the industry has matured, and this is kind of like the end game. What differentiates different blockchains is going to be this user adoption, and it's going to be driven by decentralized innovation, not because decentralized innovation is like more moral or more just, but because it's just more effective and produces better outcomes, and nobody else is going to have any choice but to adopt these strategies in order for them to still be relevant. And why do I feel so confident about it? because, in Catalyst, we did a great big old experiment, and we can see, we did a great old experiment that we can truly see. These slides are acting up. Yeah. It's great old experiments where we see this like breaknecking pace of innovation through those proposed projects through Fund 1, the rapid growth through Fund 2, and how much it involves through Fund 9, essentially doing so much for the Cardano ecosystem. And one could have maybe assumed that this is just like a one-off, or maybe something that's really unique to the Cardano community, which is a unique and amazing community. But we see that it's actually the picture is bigger than this. That when you look at the pattern, you look at what happens in this SingularityNET, like deep funding and its trajectory, and you look at what's happening in the Mina ecosystem and ZK Ignite and what's going on in its trajectory, and it's gonna continue to grow in a kind of scary pace. It's pretty clear that pretty much wherever we're gonna seed a decentralized innovation fund, it's gonna experience the same conditions if we do it right. So I think this is my conclusion is this is like an inevitable outcome. Just a matter of time. You cannot match the pace, the engagement, the diversity, and the loyalty that these kind of programs offer. In this talk, I'm gonna cover a lot of what I call, or what research calls System 1, which is our gut brain. I don't know if you know this, but like we have extraordinary amount of neurons and connections and processing power in our gut, and that kind of almost rivals what's going on in our regular brain. What's so special about our gut system is it's literally constructs reality for us. Okay, so like everything that arrives to our frontal cortex is first processed by our gut. And maybe a good way to illustrate it is like, have you noticed if you were like very distressed or anxious or something like that, and you go into a room and you suddenly interpret people's words and input, completely different than if you were like relaxed, happy, feeling good, and what's really interesting is that those decentralized innovation programs are actually activate this work really closely with the System 1. And what they're saying, or what the gut feeling they create for masses is, we trust you. And we do it through open innovation, through the transfer of legitimacy, through the formation of identity, through roles, and through person-to-person direct connection and formation of meaning, where, of course, like we tend to talk a lot about System 2, right? All the things that happen in our frontal cortex that send the signal, you can bet the farm on us, where there's clear rules and processes, incentive mechanisms, and the right frameworks, the challenges, the knowledge, the tech, the documentation, and of course, like all the long-term like viability of things, which is like a really important part. But actually in this talk, I'm going to spend less time on that, because I think I bet a lot of people talked about it a lot so far. So I think that could be really fun to talk about this, about the gut system. Though I'll cover a few things from there. So open innovation is all about having open challenges, the idea that people take ownership about a solution instead of being treated like, let's say, suppliers or contractors that like just fulfill an RFP, like a list of specific things that are supposed to act and implement, but so much greater sense of trust and ownership. It's about open proposals where everybody else can get inspired and see other people's ideas and get inspired, you know, and versus like a secret proposal system where only a small committee can read actually the all proposals and gain from those collective insights. The difference between a public feedback where, you know, that there's not just transparency, but there's just like wisdom that's being transferred like en masse through these public conversations and enrich the collective, versus closed innovation where maybe you don't even receive feedback, you just get a rejection or a acceptance, you know, or just the feedback is just shared with you and does not profit the greater community. And it's also about grassroots, you know, those people who are not, it's not just that they're like, the grassroots, not just that they're like value aligned and loyal, it's they spend so much time within the technology that they understand, you know, they're the astronauts, right? They see the potential and they see the use cases that, let's say, a small in-group or a small or group of mercenaries that just like come and do projects and maybe work in many other blockchains in parallel, like just don't have that insight, that oomph that drives a real novel use case that can become a market leader. Then a second aspect is from the gut is the transfer of legitimacy. Legitimacy is a type of energy, and it can be transmitted and transferred. I think one of the things we kept doing both in Catalyst and now in ZK Ignite is we started, you know, we started with Charles Hoskinson, you know, like coming and introducing and almost kind of symbolically transferring the legitimacy and telling our community, we trust you, we live in you, we pay attention to you. And same for other leaders in the Cardano blockchain, same for the leadership and participants and people adminning the program and technical leaders from the community. It's a continuous process that happens and it translates into a feeling, okay, that generates a reality. Another aspect is how much like really giving people defined roles can grow and inspire our community. You know, we have like probably like not probably like there's been like a massive research done with basically thousands of people working in corporations all around the world, and they surveyed millennials and asked them like, are you happy where you're working? Apparently like, and that was a few years ago. I bet now it's actually the numbers are much bigger, much more extreme, but like, you know, 2/3, you know, don't really see themselves staying like long-term where they're at. You know, basically people don't want to bet the farm or don't want to be loyal like to the end of their career. And you can really see the reasons, right? It's the variety of experiences, it's the use made of the skills, the professional development, personal recognition, cross-team collaboration. These are all things that this generation cares a lot, and it's important for them, and current centralized organizations can't really provide them, nor closed innovation systems. And suddenly this is a breath of fresh air, okay? A different type of experience that you get that is vastly superior to the existing one, where you can be a voter or a mentor or an elector, a community advisor, a validator, a facilitator, and, you know, and taking on this variety of roles is not just, you know, it creates so much benefits, like from creating a network of support to providing this layer of social affirmation and a sense of belonging and connection. It's also like all these people, because their work is they see and they read and they get inspired and they have conversations, they just become this like massive store of this like decentralized organization knowledge. Not only do they have this like amazing review of what the state of the art, what's the problems and what's being built and all the feedback, but they also know the people, they know who's, with a community of 1,000 people, suddenly like whose person would get along with that person, and this is how like teams are formed, magic is formed, projects get built that are novel and groundbreaking. And also this serves to be like a giant bank of potential proposers. Like I don't have exact statistics, but I'm sure that from all these programs, like all these people fulfilling these roles, like naturally gravitate towards becoming proposers or taking part of a team, especially once they've amassed this knowledge capital, and they realize, they see the opportunities and they see this connective tissue. And of course, flexibility, right? You're not, in a normal company, you have your role and you stick with it. And here you can, from fun to fun, you can try out things, you can do things in parallel, you can see something doesn't work for you and try something else. And they just like there isn't really quite something like that, right? In other formats. Another big aspect is synchronous collaboration and planned serendipity, because this is where trust is getting built. There's a kind of a little research I'm quoting on the top right field, like top right corner of the screen, where basically a team of scientists like did a bunch of experiments in crowdsourcing or problem solving. And they looked at a bunch of factors where do come more impactful solutions, comparing between things like skills or the incentive system used or the actual content of the conversations between the teams. But of all these factors, they found that the most influential factor is something they called burstiness, which is basically the ability of teams to all meet together, have a rapid exchange of information, of a conversation, in a short period of time. Okay, and this is one of those really vastly underlooked aspects of like how are we creating burstiness within our systems of collaboration. And just a few examples. I think we did it a lot. Like we kind of know it intuitively. We kind of created it by ourselves, but it's really fun to think about where open conversations, such as organized by the Catalyst Swarm, or what we do with GatherTown on ZK Ignite, where there's just like space for those conversations to happen. The idea of insight sharing at the start of the innovation programs, the ability and of course also like the design of these programs that like everything happens at the same time every week, everybody doing the same thing. So it's also a giant leverage for this. So that's like another interesting aspect. I think another one that's cool to think about is the two key questions builders are facing, which is, what do I build and how do I build it? And realizing, so this is kind of goes more, this is kind of like not a gut thing, it's more a rational thing, but it also translates into gut. It also says, we trust you, we care, we are empowering you with the right knowledge that you need to thrive, and here we really need to think about these programs as an opportunity for the DevRel organization, the vision and the mission of the protocol, the business development strategy, like the insights coming out of it, all the insights, community insights about like the developer feedback and the user feedback around common challenges and questions, and of course the technical roadmap in a transparent way that kind of feedback into the innovation program, feedback into the community, and building that intelligence and insights that really gives people the agency to do things that are impactful. I think one more quick insight is just talking about the different groups of I believe, at least in some systems, maybe there's this conception that per challenge, like there's just like one body of electors and voters, and probably that's not the optimal setup. Like actually the kind of system you want to generate is that there's a layer, like the layer of, you basically want to create those really impactful feedback loops where the people who elect or review should be as close to be the clients of the solution being provided, to keep everything that's going on like kind of like grounded in reality, grounded in real market demand and real use cases that can really serve what's needed, versus like maybe just like an abstract perception of what's needed that maybe some kind of an outside voter might think. So just to give you a few examples of that, okay, so if you're building a DApp, who do you want to be the electors, right? Who do you want to be the ones who select, who receive funding? Okay, like ideally you would like the early adopters, actual users looking at the list of like potential applications and taking the one they actually want to use, okay? Or group of investors, the ones who are actually gonna take like a seed idea and pour more resources into it to make it like larger in scale and impact. So for example, these would be great groups to be electors. They don't have to be the deciders necessarily. They can come with a list of recommendations, and then the voters the greater body can approve that recommendation. But not gonna get into the edge case. I'm talking about being effective right now. That's what's the most effective. Same for those who develop developer ecosystem tools, like tools for building more dApps, for example, or like all the tooling that's needed and the services and the education resources. You want those electing to be the dApp developers themselves, so they're building, they know what's challenging, they know what's hard, and you can create this like amazing feedback loop between these two groups where basically those offering the tools are and those using the tools are actually working together to improve and iterate around the quality of developer tools building over time. And of course, there's like a whole category of, all these bottom-up community initiatives, for better support and collaboration within the community. And of course, the best group is actually the people consuming these services, like the grassroots community themselves would be a good group. Okay, I'm gonna kind of speed through the rest of the slides so we'll have some time for conversation. So I also want to share about accountability, and accountability is so important, but it's also accountability is a feeling, right? You can force people to go through lots of hoops and convince a lot of people, but actually having a inner feeling, sense of accountability is the most powerful and effective thing to actually drive people not just checking boxes, but really working hard to actually realize a bigger idea. Okay, like so, like I mean, again, like you think about any innovation accelerator, like let's say Y Combinator, you know, they're not asking projects accelerated in Y Combinator to check boxes, you know, they're asking them to be adaptive and reactive and try their best and pivot and change direction if needed. You know, they're asking them from this emotional accountability. And I think this is what decentralized innovation funds should emphasize. So you can make it public, you can make it a relationship from day one. So like have a relationship between those who are reviewing and like, you know, validating that the work's been done, and the team, like from the get-go, you know, they shouldn't be like meeting the first time right at the end, you know, there should be a real relationship where you realize you're actually all working together towards the same thing. So you make it about peer trust and not just checking boxes. And one thing we're currently doing in ZK Ignite is that electors are also the accountability assessors. So there's a real, you know, it makes the accountability bi-directional. It's not just the proposers that feel this desire to do good work. It's also the electors that understand that when they elect something, you know, they should kind of be there, you know, and like go through the consequences, and they understand that they also have some accountability toward think through that the project is successful, or at least like, you know, give them a bit of a cold water of truth, you know, when they need to pivot or change, and maybe you know, and so I'll share maybe just two more principles. One is that let's not forget the carrot. I think accountability should lead to rewards, such as like a token bonus or something like that, not just like be driven by kind of hope and opening, and not just like a fear of retribution. And also that you have to allow for what we call rapid unscheduled disassembly. Like give people an out, you know, if you tried something and it doesn't work out, like make it easy for people to say like, okay, I give up, let's like break out the team, let's distribute our resources towards other teams that are doing better, and as a collective achieve more. All right, so last slide is like, you know, I want to talk about this feeling of like the betting the farm. This is like really important for builders, you know, to feel comfortable to really put themselves forward and build in your ecosystem. And there's like a few mechanisms. These are like not a full list, but some things I've learned are really great at achieving that. Is like the repetition, you know, that the funds are repeating and are, you know, in a predictable fashion and a consistent fashion. Very, very important. That the funding is predictable, that we gather often. I really think once a week should be like the minimum, that there is a decentralized treasury. And I think this is where, you know, IOHK, Charles, been like really visionary, groundbreaking about creating that, like that people know that the treasury is forever feeling, you know, and there's always like this energy, and that the system makes sense long term. Of course, reputation. And with reputation, my advice is just like to start and experiment and not wait for the perfect storm of everything to work out, but just start to document reputation and iterate as we go along. We'll get much faster to having a decent reputation system like that. To establish a growth pact with your community, saying like, if you come and give your best, we're gonna make you grow. We're gonna give you the right skills, both in terms of domain knowledge and also communication skills that make you ready to transition into the world of work of the 21st century. And of course, like that sense of connection and meaning, and not working in silos, collaborating and getting support, and keep returning to the bigger vision, the bigger cause of why we're here. Yeah, and that's my kind of quick insight. I wanted to just also share with you that I'm moving on from my role as head of ecosystem for Mina, and I am starting to look for my next project. And if anybody wants to collaborate with me and think about starting up or improving or maintaining innovation funds, this is where I can be reached. I also do bar mitzvahs. And yeah, thanks for listening. And I'm here to take questions.
Thank you so much, Dor. That was amazing. That was so spectacular. I love that quiet, calm presence that you bring, where you see so much, but you take the time and the speed to just slow down and present and share in this way where it fills, but without overwhelming. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In my head, it felt really quick, and that I'm like sharing a lot and very dense. But I'm happy. I'm happy.
It is. It's dense. There's so much there. There's so many layers and complexity, and at the same time, it's a very personal connection. So thank you very much. And actually, it's an area that I'm very curious about from your experience of decentralization. In the area of tech, in the area of blockchain, in the area of AI, it can feel so important to move fast. Oh, we need to get out this technology before they do, or it's happening now and it's so urgent that we make this big. There's this urgency and this pressure that of course leads to the temptation to centralization. It'd be just easier if we just get a team and get this done, right? So how do you look at slowing that down in the face of emerging technology and wanting to be out there first and best and slow that down to having space to come together and create?
That's a great question. It's a hard one, because actually what these decentralized innovation funds do is actually they accelerate everything really quickly. And then how can we prevent that from spiraling out of control? I think that maybe, first of all, I think it deserves a deep conversation. I'm not sure if I have all the answers, but I do think that maybe the roles built into the protocol, all these, I talked about mentors or validators, assessors that work with the proposing teams. If we have this role of ethical, ethics people or guardians, that are actually embedded in the innovation process themselves and participate and give feedback and advise, and also work towards building that corpus of knowledge of what's dangerous, what's unsafe. Maybe that could be a important safety measure, right? To add wisdom to that system kind of built in. But that, that's kind of my initial reaction. I think there might be something much bigger, maybe when you design an innovation program, you add a specific stage, for example, around that, maybe that becomes part of the funding criteria. You have a lot of different levers. There's a lot of different levers you can use. It's interesting, I guess maybe one more thing about that one is, I think all these mechanisms can help with the known unknowns of AI, but we also have the unknowns of AI. And that's really by definition, it means we can't predict it. It's going to emerge. So maybe some kind of a sandbox system where things get out of hand, they get out of hand within the sandbox and not out there. So
not in the wild.
not it. Yeah. But that's really, that's not my expertise, but that's such a great question.
Yeah, you may be a conversation master within the ecosystem, right? That makes sure that we're keeping the conversation at the right speed and not trying to rush into or past. And somebody who's not afraid to bring up these unknowns. we tend to have a fear as humans of the unknown, or not want to talk about them so much as what we can do. And if we can slow down to look closely, what new can emerge. It's always so interesting to me too. Every time a team of individuals comes together and makes a project, makes a DApp, makes an AI system, it's kind of this extraordinary but everyday magic, that actually can happen, that we can manifest, that we can come to get together like that. It's such a gift to be in this space where we can nurture and we can enable this, that we can create the funding, the space, the systems, the support that let others pool their passions and pull off this small miracle.
Do you know, I have another thought about this AI problem. It is a real imminent. The train is heading towards us right now. So I want to add something more. I think we humans, we need to start to create these systems of oversight. And I think that there is something with decentralized governance that is a critical piece to unlock that puzzle. And I would call it like that. I would call it the human sensor array. Let's call it like that. That every human has a natural right, okay, to have their voice heard, okay, and be able to broadcast to the larger network of humans about what's going on, if they're okay, if they detect danger, if they're, and that system has a built-in capacity, like to switch off an AI system if it goes overboard. And now with zero knowledge proofs, private voting, and the globalization, the same way that blockchain enables like global accessibility to finance, okay, and that we're all participating in this network. If you just have an internet connection, it seems like global connectivity now is also unlocked. Like, I think creating this like human sensor array it's totally feasible, and could be kind of our like last best defense, but we need to start to like architect our systems to work with this. So again, just another
yeah everybody has the right to raise the flag and signal when there's a problem and it needs to be addressed, especially in these systems that are so scalable and so powerful, that governments try to protect us, and blockchain, if nothing else, has shown that people are very capable of do your own research, find out if it's a real project or something else. And the same here in this space. Instead of Italy trying to ban ChatGPT and other countries because of concerns and considerations, which is, it's valid, that's the direction, but instead people looking at and being attentive to how they're being affected, its own ethical system and what's going on there. Instead of being protected, how can we be doing our own research and be raising flags, have that system where we can speak up about the AI systems that are coming online right now. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe. I like how you even slowed our conversation down. Thank you. I have a question from chat, actually from Swarm. So for a question for you, what would you recommend to support and facilitate the transition of power from an innovation fund, a funding entity, towards the community? I'm not sure if I got that, but even just the transition of power right now from SingularityNET, starting with Beep and our ambassadors, and now moving into this new arm of decentralized governance. How does that transition of power work?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like that's a great challenge, and it happens on multiple layers. I think that I think the biggest hurdle, at least from my perspective, is let's call it like a bit of pragmatic reality, okay, where a lot of the tendency is for like a lot of the founding institutions of blockchains, like that they hold a lot of the domain knowledge and know-how that, and and also the kind of like maybe some portions of the human capital that they're not quite feel comfortable at transitioning, decentralizing the power because they care. They want, they want everything to run the best way possible. They want to be competitive and they want things to not break down. And I think that, and of course, like the more they do, is like they gain more domain expertise and more people come along. So it just becomes kind of worse over time. So I think that you have to make a kind of a mindset switch to reverse these dynamics and be willing to share outside, release all the knowledge and the strategy and the insights and the connections and come and mingle and like be there, be there for the community and train and grow the community members like to basically build the capacity towards self-governance. And I think that's not only like good for decentralization, but I think that would also be a signal where talent from all over the blockchain space would come to you, because they will see this is where people grow, where there's real commitment, what I talked about, this gut feeling. So I think that would become the next pragmatic way forward, and realizing that this is not gonna be a instant thing. It's a multi-year thing, but also like it should be designed such that those members of the community who demonstrate extraordinary abilities for communication, decision-making, building, innovation, can really rapidly ascend, and really take prominence and actually have the type of agency, and then let the dynamics lead that process, right? Like, so give the power to the individual that like, if you show up, like the more you show up, the more you encourage others to show up and be that type of leader and be a driver, and then the transition would happen faster. And if we do it slower, it's going to happen slower, and that's also fine. We just need to keep being grounded.
Absolutely. We're technically over. We're technically in break, but I wanted to know if I could ask a couple more questions, or if you need to pop.
I'm here. I'm gonna stay for also the other talks.
Okay, great. It's just a couple. So as you talk about this, bringing forward the community members, the decentralized members that are passionate, that show, as you say, an ability for leadership and for decision making and for promoting. You can bring in a wide range of personalities. How do you help keep that cohesive? How do you foster a space where you don't get splits because everybody's got their own way of doing it, even they're massively capable individually, but keeping everybody aligned? What do you see as the key there?
Yeah, you gotta build these values, and it happens in a few layers. It starts with, I think, like something like a code of conduct, which is more like a safety, like don't be an ass, don't be a troll, don't threaten, don't be violent, like stuff like that. But then it goes into like values of how do you communicate and how you work, and like how over time, like, because we're all just humans on a timeline, we're not born perfect collaborators, and especially not in such novel system. It's going to take time to learn, but in order to start learn, you need to have you need to understand where you want to go. What kind of culture, what kind of communication skills, are needed and desirable. So someone needs to start and make the decision, kind of set the tone, and then people can choose if that works for them, or maybe it doesn't, and they want to be somewhere else. And that's also, it's also fine, and that happens. And it's also good to reflect and iterate on these set of values and principles like over time. And I think it's good to have mechanisms where people get a fair chance to get feedback and support and mentorship about the skills as part of their growth. So like over time, we're growing our collaborative capacity. It's also tied down with like incentives and reputation. These also can be connected to these specific skills. There's also, there's a lot to say. I know, but also like, there's some voting systems that are more give individual agency, rather than like force a collective decision. Like so there's some decision processes that require a consensus, right? If you do a hard fork, you need a consensus. But like when you do it in Decentralized Innovation Fund, actually like having diverse opinions and people like that want to try different directions actually can be great, because you cover more of the innovation landscape, which is exactly what these systems are designed to do. So we've been like in SingularityNET, we've done a very good successful experiment with using crowdfunding mechanism rather than like yes, no vote, and kind of instead of reaching a consensus, it's like every elector, it's like controls some amount that he can allocate, that he or she or they can allocate as they so desire. And this produces a much more diverse set of proposals that they get elected, and also a much bigger sense of agency for the voting body, which I think just translate into energy and motivation going forward. So I think it's all working together. But that's another question. We can have a conference just about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep being struck in all these conversations about the way that, decentralizing AI and crowdsourcing the wisdom of the planet to create real solutions, as we were talking about with Bethlehem earlier, real solutions for crop diseases in Africa for the farming, or for real estate in Southeast Asia, to address their specific legal structures. Crowdsourcing these AI solutions is so critical locally, but also bringing in these decentralized organizations is the same thing with people. Crowdsourcing the wisdom of how to govern, of directions to take, of experiments to take, and letting all these different pieces emerge, combine, disassemble, as you say, until the natural wisdom trickles up to form the best systems that we know. It's beautiful. How do you see it? Just one last question. How do you see AI promoting decentralization, augmenting decentralized funding or governance, or all these decentralized community endeavors?
Wow. It's a great question. I'm not sure. I would say like, I guess I have to say, if I could do one thing, I would launch a centralized fund about it, and I would just expose because I think what I like, as I have my opinions, but I'm not such an AI expert, but but what we can do is like tap into this massive expertise, that's like already in this network, and see what people come up with. It might be worth to have an initial round of reflection about, wait, what's blocking us? Okay, what's the slowers? Like if we're actually trying to get this thing moving, right? And we're trying to develop all these applications and use cases. Where in our process are we slowed or blocked? And I think once we source that out to the community as a series of open problems, we can really inspire them to come up with the best fit between AI capabilities to address like specific problems we've identified.
I like that. I think we brought up, you didn't get a chance to see chat, but we liked the comments you were making about the serendipity and how important that is. And can we build an AI serendipity engine? You know, that serendipitously brings together the right teams and the right projects at the right time and links together, you know, these two decentralized bodies are doing two different things, but they need the same innovation, or this one solved it and could talk with, you know, the marketing team about what they did and bringing that wisdom across. So I think an AI serendipity engine would be a perfect innovation in this space. I'm going to ask one last question from the chat. So Swarm asked again, Dor, you had quite some awesome experience in innovation and DLT spaces. How did these experiences change you on a personal level?
What a personal question. Right, so let's see. I mean, I think the biggest change, if I had to put one, I mean, change many ways, but to make it short, I used to be a believer in decentralized governance and is like, I used to be a big believer, and I actually transformed into be a big knower. You know, that I know it works and I know it's happening and I know it's inevitable, and that makes a really big difference.
Right.
just like how I build, just like how I manage myself and build around the world, and the sense of confidence that I have, that made a huge difference for me. And you know, I think maybe, you know, I can't like not mention, you know, all the good collaborators and friends and connections that I made along the way that was so critical, you know, because I think there were so many of us holding these ideas, but maybe we were a bit isolated, or maybe we didn't have this like overarching structure to bring it to life, and now we do. So I know, you know, so I feel just like more connected.
That's nice. Instead of a hope. Instead of a hope, you know, I would like decentralization to be a thing. You have a trust and knowing. I've seen this. It works. It's beautiful. The best really does flow up magically on, again, the everyday magic, right? Thank you very, very, very much for your time, for extending your time, for sharing your dense expertise in a way that really distills down and gives guidance to our community, to our leaders, to ourselves, and being here and sharing today.
Yeah, thanks for listening and for the great questions, and let's continue the conversation.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much.